Hey, welcome back to Two Super Guys Try Stocks. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Vinny. And man, oh man, Baba of old came back this week, roaring back, absolutely getting crushed all week. And then, particularly on Friday, absolutely decimated. We're going to talk about the news that drove that. We're going to talk about the perception going forward as far as like what the underlying facts of the situation are, and then a response from like the other party here, if you will, a little bit. All right. So, like I said, 15% down in like 5 days. It pains me, but it wasn't that long ago we would see 160 as like, wow, I can't believe we've gotten back to these levels.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast you're like, no, this is the new norm, right? This is how it is. The good news is this was purely due to political tension and literally not anything that Baba did, which is huge because before it was like 1% cloud computing growth, which is very disappointing. So this is purely political tension.
Yep,
Not good, but
absolutely. Yep. Well, yeah, it can be resolved much faster than underlying degradation of the
yes,
business. That's what I think you're trying to get at here. Yeah.
or get much worse really
Oh,
fast. That is fair.
yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very bipolar. And 8.5% of that 15% this week was down just on Friday alone. Brutal. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was not a
jeez.
pretty day to go check in your Baba stock portfolio. All right. So this is the news story that really drove that 8.5%. Trump threatens massive tariff hike on China over rare earth metals dispute. Right? That he's threatened this massive tariff increase. That he cited this export control that China had imposed on rare earth metals, and that he threatened to cancel his upcoming meeting with Xi Jinping. He even says later on that he refused to call him, and they're supposed to meet in person 2 weeks from now. And he's saying, like, I don't even know what's worth doing. He's just, you got to come to me with a sweetheart deal before I'll even consider sitting down at the table with you, which is that's Trump's style negotiation. It's a little bit off-putting for many folks, I would say. But yeah, if he thinks he can get it done, he can get it done. Maybe we'll see what happens.
Not ideal.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
ideal. I would probably take the meeting
very
if it's there.
yeah,
I'm
I
not the
absolutely
president.
yeah. Yep, that's how I feel as well. But all right, so China controls about 70% of global supply for these rare earth minerals. All right, and they're highly important for large, like kind of leading technological products. Right, so military, defense, batteries, semiconductor industry. This is like all the cutting edge thing that makes the 21st century the 21st century, and these rare earth minerals are crucial to their production of it, right? um, so this is what basically the U.S. response here is. One of the policies that we are calculating at this moment is a massive increase in tariffs on Chinese products coming into the United States. Many other countermeasures they could consider. And then his classic sign off, thank you for your attention to this matter, which is kind of funny to me. But China's Ministry of Commerce on Thursday said that all foreign entities must now obtain a license to export products containing more than 0.1% of these rare earth minerals, right, sourced from that country. So China is indeed, kind of tightening the restrictions on export of these rare earth minerals. Right? Doesn't mean that they're going to actually meaningfully change the amount of them coming out of the country as of yet, but potentially that could happen, right? If they deny all these licenses and say, like, no, we're keeping it all for ourselves, we don't really know, but they are certainly putting a rule in place that would allow them to have more control over it, right?
Yeah, which I mean, I don't really have a problem with that. That seems like something most countries would do. Now, granted, if they start denying things, then that's a different story. But
Mm-hmm.
which it is
Yeah.
China, so they might do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. This could go somewhere really bad, but just the fact that they have this rule in place, and it goes into effect December 1st. Sorry, I don't as of yet think that this is a major, you know, alarm signal or anything like that. It's just something that needs to be watched and
I agree
see if
because
it materially impacts things.
they could do this without the export license thing. They could do it with right now if they wanted. Like they could be like, hey, by the way, Sweden, no more. They could just do that right now. So they don't like it doesn't need this. It's more, I guess it's a little bit more bureaucratic, but I don't know. Too early to
Yeah,
tell.
yeah, exactly. It signals something may not be right here, right? So, president said he had not spoken to Xi, and didn't call him to talk to him about any of this sort of stuff before he went on his Truth Social, a tweet rampage, if you will. Um, but basically saying that they were supposed to meet with President Xi in 2 weeks in South Korea. Now doesn't seem to even be a reason to do so because they just escalated the kind of trade war here from his perspective, and then he immediately hit back with some pretty harsh words towards trade war. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's what this whole sell off is about: is increasing trade hostility between the U.S. and China.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We're back in
Yeah.
it. Back in April.
Yep. Yeah. Basically, it was like that April Victory Day, whatever they called it, a flashback right there. So it said the relationship with China over the last 6 months has been pretty good. So it's kind of surprising to hear that this export control thing was coming into place. So these rare earth minerals, right? One of my favorite things about this is actually where is it? That's the next slide. But basically, for production of, like I said, high tech industries, they need various like compounds that are extracted from the Earth's crust that are a little bit less common, if you will, in terms of having them in a highly purified state. It does actually say relatively later that it's actually not that uncommon. Um, but this is looking at U.S. production of many of these things. So we do produce them here domestically, many of them, and we have been able to successfully kind of increase that production over time. However, my understanding, basically, this is some Google level research here, is that they're extremely kind of pollution intensive to mine and extract and purify these products. Therefore, less of the world has been willing to engage in their production than China has, because like that's just the name of their game. They don't really have the same level of I want to say respect or a caution around polluting that many other places in the world do. So they've been the large exporter of it, right? This is saying as far as our imports, right? 70% of it came from China, 13% Malaysia, 6% Japan. So the vast majority of our imports of these rare earth minerals was coming from China. Right?
That's fair.
Right?
Sorry, bad time to yawn. I mean, it makes sense. They're also China's huge, like just land mass wise, it's massive.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is all of this is from like a government report actually, but this is saying that basically that they are relatively common in terms of their uh, distribution with across Earth as far as like being available in the Earth's crust. However, having concentrations that are mineable is less common. There are significant other countries that have the resource that just don't extract nearly as much as China has, because, like, once again, I said the kind of pollution concern there is my understanding. Um, if you look at the amount of reserves they estimate here, as far as this is in like tons, so the United States here 1.9 million tons, whereas we look at Brazil 21 million tons and China 44 million tons. So in reality, Brazil is like a significant competitor here if they chose to be so. It's Canada here. Yeah, it says 830,000 tons, which I don't believe is accurate. My understanding is they have significantly more than we do. That's why it's a little bit, what's the word I want to say here? Inconsistent. Yeah, estimated to include 33.6 million tons in the United States and more than 14 million tons in Canada. So I'm not really sure why they disagree with each other here from this own internal report. But there are other sources of it, but this would take significant time to spin up, and then what's the question of whether or not these countries are interested in it, right? That was one of the things we did with this whole Russia-Ukraine war, is that in theory there's a rare earth minerals agreement now between the United States and Ukraine, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which good for us. But yeah, I didn't know Brazil had that much. That's insane.
yeah, yeah.
That's a lot.
So this is today's kind of release from the Commerce Committee in China regarding Trump's tweet rampage here. Okay, basically answering the Q&A. You can, if you Google it, you can find the whole thing if you want to read the whole thing. It was like 4 or 5 questions, but they had some pretty lengthy responses. Um, so there's a couple highlights here. So China's export controls are not bans. Licenses will be granted for eligible applications. Right? So, yeah, like I said, it can certainly be a slippery slope, but they are certainly saying that at this point they're not flat out banning anything here, but they just want to have better control over the export of these rare earth minerals. Right?
I do not see a problem. Man,
Yeah,
I feel like I'm gonna get lit up in the comments here. I don't really see a problem with this.
I agree. I think that's a very
I
reasonable thing to say.
It could be a problem if all of a sudden this was a fake thing. We're like, hey, we're gonna do these licenses, not a big deal, we're gonna be fine. And then a year from now, no more for you, no license. That's a big problem. But once again, they can do that without this step already. So
Yeah,
I don't get it. I'm missing something here.
I
Someone
agree.
tell me in the comments why I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you're escalating tensions, but like I can't see this thing particular being the end all be all of like a spark that ignites like the next salvo world wars. But it certainly is a sign of increasing tension potentially, right?
I got it.
They
That's
do
fair.
they do call out the U.S. and their double standard here, right? Talk about how They have over 3,000 items on the export restriction list to China, as opposed to like they only have 900. So I get that they're trying to say like the U.S. is calling out China for this export restriction when in fact they have 3 times the number of export restrictions that China currently has in place.
Okay, that's interesting. Solid.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this was an interesting statement to me too. This is for in response to one of the other questions, but willful threats of high tariffs are not the right way to get along with China. China's position on the trade war is consistent. We do not want it, but we are not afraid of it. So China is unwilling to back down. Basically they say in this message, but they are not trying to start one, is what they say. And that's also kind of inconsistent with having this increased rule here where they're allowing now this potential export restrictions.
Okay, I'm reading the rest of this. It's basically saying China is saying, "Hey, let's just do what we said we would do on the phone calls and all the word that we have discussed, and maybe that's not happening."
Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
boy.
Yeah, I just wanted to
On.
throw this up there. All right, a Reddit user called this out. This is entirely how I feel about this entire position here. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty funny.
perfect, perfect summary, is it not?
It is, man. If we
Yeah,
could just just really really get along, Bob would be $320 a share right now. This would be really solid.
I
Um,
completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the risk when people say like, Baba stock or JD, any of these stocks are really good opportunities in terms of fundamentals if you compare it to American level of
Hmm.
fundamentals, right, with PE ratio, cash flow, that kind of stuff. This is it. So this is
Yeah.
why it's always valued at a lower PE comparatively to others, and all that
Hmm.
stuff. So it definitely
And
sucks. I feel like I don't want to make a bold statement here, but I'm going to say in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, this is drastically reduced. I feel
the
like
price or tension?
no
What is going to be
tension,
raised?
tension.
Okay.
Good call. Tension. Maybe I don't know something clearly because I don't have a problem with the license thing because they don't need a license in the first place to stop. So
Yeah.
we'll have to see.
I completely agree. A couple of thoughts here. One, this speaks to position sizing. All right. So for a while, it's easy to get tempted when you see a stock like Baba that was significantly undervalued and load it up, make it 70% of your portfolio. And when stocks are, really appreciating, it makes you look like a genius, right? But the problem is when you take like a hit like this, which is entirely something that's outside of the company's control, all of a sudden you have that significant haircut on that. So, this is important to have that concept of position sizing, right? With something this
Yeah.
risky.
I mean, honestly, we I had said this in the last Papa video. We went up so fast. So I mean something had to have come down. I didn't necessarily think it'd be another friggin' trade war, but like fundamentally you just can't go up. You can't go from 60 to 180 in a matter of like 4 months and just, that just big companies don't really do that. So,
Yeah.
well, Nvidia.
Yeah, well, true. The other thought here too is like I think they'll back off tensions a little bit. 2 weeks from now, I think they'll end up actually meeting, and I think they'll be able to broker some sort of deal. Like Trump is all about negotiating deals, and this is just him taking a hardline stance from the get go so that he can concede as little as possible when they actually meet in 2 weeks.
Someone needs to take these heads of states' phones away after an immediate decision. Just a cool off period of 2 hours could do wonders for Elon Musk. All these people. As soon as you read something you don't like, don't just hop on Twitter. Just think
Yeah,
about it for 2 hours. Come on. What a
that's true.
world we would
True.
live in right now. We would have
Yeah.
Mars would be colonized already.
That is the utopian dream right there, Dylan.
That's all it takes. All right, guys. Let me know what you think.
Get to the next one.